who are you when nobody's watching? That's you in your purest form, right? When there's an audience, that's a different version. But when it's just you and it's time to make the hard decisions, then who are you, right? And I believe that's where you really see the level of integrity each person has. And then the other value that I definitely believe is part of the foundation is empowerment, collaboration, embracing the child's independence, their autonomy. I think that goes a long way into their development, which leads us to the very first part of CAPE, which is C, choosing choices. Choice is everything. So let's talk about the psychology of choice for a moment. Providing options enhances the perception of control. So why is it important that your child feels they have control? Well, because ultimately, as we talked about, it is the person's responsibility to change whose change it is. So if you want them to feel that they have an impact on their growth, on their change, on the direction they're going, you have to encourage their autonomy in having those choices. Having control also, I believe, decreases anxiety. If you're just being dictated to, being made to do something, you're being told to do something that you don't think is right, but you're being forced to do it, that can definitely increase anxiety with your child, some defensiveness, and maybe they might do it, but they're looking for their chance to kind of rebel a little bit. And that's another important note, Tina, and tell me if you agree or disagree on this. But when we are not providing choice, we are more requesting a different C word. And what that other C word is compliance. And if you're making someone comply, if you're making a child comply, then what happens is they're only going to comply until that consequence that you're using to make them comply is no longer there, right? So parents, in other words, you're making children do a certain thing. What happens when you're not there to observe if they're doing that behavior? If the perceived consequence is gone, they're going to go do what they want to do. The other thing is compliance might work if you're like bribing them, right? I'll give you X if you do what I'm asking you to do. But the problem with that type of compliance as well is what happens when the thing you're using to bribe, the carrot, is no longer as important to the child. Now I'm going to go back to the behavior that I want. Now, compliance sometimes is required, like if the child's in danger. The example I like to use is like if your kid is running into the street, you're not going to be like, hey, I'll give you some choices here. You can get out of the street, you can stay and see what happens, or you're going to be like, compliance, get out of there, right? But if the idea then is to prevent future occurrences running into the street, is embracing that autonomy. And then having choice encourages empowerment, confidence, a feeling that they can be successful and accomplish things. And empowerment is, I think, really important with children. When you hear empowerment, being a parent that empowers their children, what kind of comes to mind there, Tina?
I think empowerment is really taking, like you said, that control. And so what's so interesting about our brain is I can really geek out on this, so I'll try not to. But I love neurological health and biological health and all of that. But when we look at the brain, and when you give someone a choice, you use the right side of the brain, and I call it right brain. Actually, they have to be creative to come up with the choice and the decision in that. And so what that actually does is, there's pleasure centers in your brain, and then there's the pain center. And so if you actually have that ability to make a choice by feeling empowered, it's using that right side of the brain. And so you're not tapping into that attitude or that, I'll show you, I'll hurt me type of stuff that a lot of teenagers might get into, but little ones do as well. And so it kind of breaks down that whole argumentative, but the empowering part is just really important, I think, with every individual, even as staff, as adults. We want to feel empowered that someone trusts us.
Yeah.
And that's what it's based on.
Absolutely. And you made a good point too. Our brain rewards us when we do something positive. So if we accomplish something or we succeed in something, our brain rewards and says, hey, that felt good. So go seek out more of that, right? Which leads to that positive growth. Now our brain can also reward us for making bad decisions if a pleasurable feeling happened. So what you want to do is enforce the positive feelings that your child gets from making a good decision, from making a choice that had a positive outcome. You want to empower them that was you. That wasn't just because you were following mommy and daddy. You did that, and the brain will reward them for that.